It's been a while since we've done a gameplay video, and what better way to spice up a Friday than to bring you one of the weirdest games I've played in a long time. Aurora nor Zen are new to the metagame. Both of these heroes are very solved. They're both very good. They're both very high on tier lists. This game should not have went how it did, but just trust me, you're going to be happy you stuck around to see this one. Thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope you enjoy the match. All right, we're playing against Zen, and we are going second. Our opponent did bring in Tide Flippers, which is a good thing to note. That is not always the case. Sometimes people just don't bring in any AB against Aurora, which, if you're going to try and run me over, like, I guess it makes sense. Like, maybe you don't need it. But I think most of the time it's correct. Just because it helps you block over the course of the long game, it can really help them deny us Arc Lightning turns or even deny us Channel Lightning Valley situationally. So I don't know. I don't see it all the time, but I do think it's correct for our opponent to have this in. So we can go Flittering Charge, play the Blink to give it go again. And then with the extra action point, I can go Snatch into the Shockwave. No Fuse is the initial line I see. I also have the option to throw Snatch. No, I think this is the best line we have. It lets us utilize our whole hand. I really dislike that we have a blue and we're not able to utilize Starfall or Aurora's text ability, which feels kind of bad. We could give up snaps this early on in the game if we wanted to, but I don't think it's correct to give up snaps here. The fact that they've given up their Sink Below pretty quickly means that they have to make a decision on giving us 2 cards, or maybe they have another defense reaction here. Ooh, they have another defense reaction? Just another Sink Below in hand? Yeah. I have to say I did not see the second Sink Below coming. I'd be curious to know if they sunk into that, or if they sunk into that, or if they just had it in their hand. I think we can just Arsenal this, to be honest. It's 40 to 40. Nobody's really done anything yet. I think Arsenaling this is fine. We'll just take 2 here. Our hand's pretty solid. If they throw something like large and in charge at us, we could make the option of blocking Burn Up and Shock, Flittering Charge, and Face Purgatory. No. Okay. So we're gonna play Burn Up and Shock. And then we're going to target the Zen. They're not going to block this. They're just going to let this one come through. I don't really think there's a... Oh, they did. I don't think that's correct. When I have 3 cards in hand and 1 in Arsenal, I don't think pitching a card to Arcane Barrier on the Burn Up and Shock is correct. Also, this card blocks 1 or it blocks 3 later in the game, which... or later in the turn, I guess. And I think blocking 3 is just better, not only from a mathematical point of view, but from the purposes of like how this turn is probably going to play out. I think it just looks a little bit better. We are going to go activate Aurora, throw Flittering Charge, and then we're going... No, actually, I take that back. We're going to go activate Aurora. It's going to be Arcanic Shockwave fused with a Flittering Charge, then play the Flittering Charge. And this should be enough to help us push over the top to make sure that we are getting the... burn up effect here. This should be good enough to get us there. Drawing another blue on this hand has worked out pretty well for us, all things considered. We've had 1 blue in each hand. Last hand was weird because we couldn't really utilize... Like, we ended up utilizing our entire hand, but it was also weird because, I don't know, like, it seemed like there was... It just felt like there should have been a better play, and maybe there was. Maybe when I go back and review this game later, there will actually turn out to be a better play. Flick Flag. Okay, so our opponent's deck is highly defensive. Like, they are on a very defensive, like, mid-range strategy. Honestly, kind of makes me wonder if they're on some, like, super sauce and maybe they're playing, like, Count Your Blessings or some nonsense. I doubt it. I doubt this is, like, Count Your Blessings kind of sauce, but... And is Snaps worth getting a piece of equipment here? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say we're just gonna play the long game here. We're gonna keep grinding. We're gonna keep playing. So it's going to be... I think the best thing we can do is to go Fray, activate Starfall, and then throw Flittering Charge, Lightning Press it, activate Aurora and Arsenal the Entwine Lightning, I think is a really good play here. Gives us a chance to push a lot of damage and really just, again, like play to the consistency of the Aurora deck. We're continuing to Arsenal. We're continuing to keep setting up these 5-card hands, and that's really where Runeblade wants to be. Although Aurora does play like a ninja a lot of times, she does have some like Runeblade characteristics, and sometimes you run into those weird hands. They don't feel great. They're just kind of awkward and some things like that. So, so we've seen 2 Sink Belows and a Flick Flack from our opponent already. Okay, so they did take the Starfall there. Okay. I mean, I'm gonna Lightning Press this, like just to be efficient and play the cards out from our hand here. We will activate Aurora and we'll just Arsenal the Entwine Lightning. They must have a pretty good hand if they decided to keep this like this. So looking at this hand, I'm thinking that it's going to be E-Strike, put Entwine Lightning on the bottom. And then it's going to be Entwine Lightning fused with Discharge, play the Potion of Strength and Arsenal the Discharge, but it also depends on what we draw from the E-Strike here. Using draw card on Enlightened Strike is pretty much always my favorite mode. We could play the Discharge and then go for pitching Potion of Strength to be able to make the turn lineup, which is not a bad line. We're not really looking to, like, you know, combo them here. Like, don't get me wrong, we're always trying to use Arc Lightning to get a ton of value, but we're not really looking to go for like the Flicker Wisp, like, you know, hard combo. So Potion of Strength is mostly just a blue in this hand, but it could be a setup piece here depending on what we draw. But it looks like putting the Entwine Lightning is going to be the best play we have. I don't know if our opponent is still there. Okay, they said they're thinking, which is like perfectly fine. Like, I completely understand. Like, they're thinking about their line. Like, they kept a good hand because they kept their hand probably recognizing that it was good in some way, and now they're trying to piece together the best way to play it, which I think is a common thing for a lot of people. And I think some people don't recognize that sometimes, is that people understand what they're trying to accomplish. They just have to figure out how to make it happen. No, we do not have a non-attack action. I mean, technically this is a non-attack action, but it can't block. I would love if Potion of Strength was able to trigger Face Purgatory, then like we might use that. This was their hand? Okay, well, I'm just going to go to 35 here. They're giving themselves an intellect penalty here, and I don't really know why. I don't know. That feels like not a great play from our opponent there. Okay. This is a really weird hand. I do like the Tiger Eye Reflex, though. I think that card's pretty solid. I like that this card can just, like, block from Arsenal. I completely got hosed at a ProQuest one time because of that. So I think we're going to go Reveal. And then we're going to throw Starfall, play Discharge to give the Discharge, or to give the Starfall go again. And then we're going to throw Entwine Lightning for 7. And then it's going to be activate Aurora and pass after that. Wax On, looking pretty good. You could have played Wax On the last Chain Link and gotten more value. I don't understand that decision. They could have actually blocked the entirety of the E-Strike and then given me Tiger Eye Reflex on the next one, and it would have been... they would have taken 1 less point. They'd be at 29 right now. So we found 1 damage that our opponent could have saved themselves. And then Entwine Lightning for 7 with no fuse is a pretty good way to end this turn. We have seen a lot of our Go Again cards, so thankfully we have Aurora ability going in the next turn. Having an embodiment of Lightning can fix a lot of hands. We've also seen a lot of attacks, so I'm hopeful that we don't draw like a brick hand where we have all non-attacks. No, we continue to have really good hands here. I mean, okay. I'm going to say no blocks here on this hand. Or I guess on this attack, the Crouching Tiger. Like, they could get us with the Maul here, but I'm not really worried about it. Ooh, Red Pouncing Key. Okay, so this is for 4. Now, we do have the option of going Burn Up and Shock into Ravenous Rabble Purgatory and like trying to get them here, or we could use the Burn Up and Shock to try and get value out of it, like to push damage, because we could go Burn Up and Shock and then play Static Shock. No, it'd be play Arcanic Shockwave with no fuse. Yeah, I think we'll just take 4 here. They're not playing Mask of Momentum or anything like that, so I'm not super worried about making sure that we're blocking chain links. Okay, so this is for 3. We go to 28, and then the Tiger's going to be for 1 because of Shuko. So Shuko makes it to where we are going to go to 27 here, which means we still have a 8-point life lead. Yep. So we're up 8. They could technically have a good follow-up here. Like, they could have a... I guess a Tiger Swipe would really be their best option. Would be the best thing they could really look to do there, would be Tiger Swipe. We're going to try and get this Burn Up and Shock to hit. Something that we could have made the decision to do. We could have played this a little differently. We could have went Arcanic Shockwave, fuse with the Burn Up and Shock. Into Ravenous Rabble, into Static Shock, into Arsenal the Burn Up, which could have been pretty good. I hate that we can't fuse this. So we had a different line where we could have Arsenal the Burn Up and Shock and set up for a better hand, but we have potential to just go Burn Up and Shock into 4-4-4, which I think lines up really well for us offensively. Now the Wax On does really cover up well here. Hopefully there's not a blue on top. Blue Lightning Surge on top. That is a big Sag. My opponent having a Wax Off here, I was like, would be absolutely catastrophic. And then I think it's worth just throwing the Static Shock, because we're probably gonna we're forcing a defense reaction, or we're forcing 2 cards here. They could also give us a card and equipment, but I don't think they want to give up equipment this early. I mean, this is a lot of damage if you take this. Oh, they could have a Chi in their hand, actually. They're probably, even if they are this defensive Zen deck, they're still playing Traverse, which means they're still leaning on some of the Chi aspect. Okay, so they're just going to play a drop in the ocean here. I mean, you just used a drop in the ocean to save 1, 2, 6 damage. So your blue drop in the ocean just saves 6 damage, which I think is really powerful. This feels really bad, but we're going to have to go Lightning Surge, and we're going to have to snap it. And then it's going to be Starfall, activate Aurora, throw Snatch with Go Again. And then we're going to Arsenal the Lightning Surge, / depending on what we draw. We have to lead on the Lightning Surge here with the snaps, because we need to be able to turn on Starfall and Aurora's hero ability. I feel like a lot of times it's natural for people to think you have to lead on the Snatch here, just because you want to get the value, but it's weird because it's actually a mistake and can put you in a worse spot. So I think that leading on the Lightning Surge is the best play, and it really opens up our hand for some availability with better options. And using the Lightning Surge in Arsenal for next turn is very powerful. We are going to activate Aurora because there's a decent chance they have a defense reaction based off of the way that their deck is built. But even with that in mind, we have seen 0 copies of Arc Lightning, and we've seen 0 copies of Channel Lightning Valley to this point in the game, which means we do have a very good way to stack up a lot of damage and really make some powerful things happen here later in the game. But if they don't have a defense reaction, they're forced into giving us 2 cards no matter what. Okay, so it's a card in Shuko, which is fine. Like, it's not 2 cards from hand, but it is technically 2 cards, and it's the same thing here. So we're going to Arsenal the Lightning Surge and set up for next turn. We have had some really, really interesting hands. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to see what they do, obviously, first, because what they do might affect our turn here. But it's going to be Lightning Surge. It's going to be Lightning Surge, Starfall, activate Aurora, Static Shock into E-Strike, drawing a card to put Lightning Surge on the bottom, I think is going to be our play here. No, we'll see what they put together. They have a Tiger in hand, a Tiger in Banish Zone, and the Wind Chakra, which means that their first Tiger is going to get +3 because they transcended. And they're going to try and end on a Mauling Key. We also have the option of, we can take 3 here. I wonder if it's going to be take 3 and then it's going to be Kakara pitching like a blue or a yellow here. No, it's just going to be the Mauling Key. Part of me kind of wants to block this, to be honest. So I can block Current Funnel and Grasp here because I'm basically blocking 6 for 5. We'll tell our opponent that we're thinking here. Or I could block... so if I block Current Funnel, my turn is Lightning Surge into E-Strike for 7, which is 11. If I block with E-Strike and the Grasp, then my turn is Lightning Surge into Starfall, which is 6, Static Shock. So it's 10/11. If this hits, this is guaranteed more damage. So we're going to block like this and take the guaranteed value going into next turn. This has been a really interesting game. Our opponent has a very, very interesting build of Zen that I wasn't really expecting, and honestly might kind of speak to why they're playing Tide Flippers, because Tide Flippers does work in this like more defensive build of the deck that my opponent's trying to set up here. That is the last Sink Below. So we've seen all 3 Sink Belows. We've seen 2 red Wax-Ons, and we've seen 2 Tiger Eye Reflexes, but that's we've only seen 1 Flick Flack. So there's 2 Flick Flacks, 1 Wax-On left. And we're just going to come in for 7, just trying to push damage here. It is worth noting that our E-Strike play would have been significantly worse if they had had a Flick Flack there, which could have like really turned the entire pace of this game around. But either way, I think it was the most efficient play because we are still saving the Static Shock for later. And I would rather use the blue Current Funnel to block for 3 now and set up and put more reds back into the deck, because we are technically down on cards. Right now, they have access to 39 cards in their deck/hand, and we have access to 35. So we're down an entire 4 cards here, which could be relevant. But considering we haven't seen any Arc Lightnings yet and our opponent's already down to 15, I don't think we need to be worried about fatigue. But in my mind, when someone starts playing like this, my brain automatically starts thinking like, okay, like we need to play a little carefully here. We need to put on a lot of pressure, but we need to play a little careful here. Oh, so they did have the Flick Flack. They just didn't use it. Okay, I mean, to be fair, like I understand they were probably using that to filter their hand a little bit, so that makes sense. I'm actually just going to take 7 here. It is worth noting that we could block Arc Lightning, Rabble, and Face Purgatory. But I think we have a better hand saying no blocks, because what we're going to be able to do, our turn's pretty cool. Our turn is pretty good here. I'm actually pretty excited to see how our turn looks. I wonder if that's the last Flick Flag. So we're going to go Channel Lightning Valley. We're going to play Arc Lightning. This is going to force a card out of their hand, or it's going to force them to give us a card off the top of our deck. Either way, it's a win for us. So Channel Lightning Valley into Arc Lightning. And then we're going to have, at minimum, we're going to have 1, 2, 3 triggers off of the, we're going to have 3 triggers off of the Arc Lightning setup here. Our opponent's trying to decide how they want to approach this turn. It was like they're really debating. They're going to have to pitch at minimum 2 cards to block all of the Arcane here, so... it's not going to be easy for them. Yeah, they said they're thinking. Like, I completely understand. This has been a really, like, back and forth game so far. No, I was expecting this matchup to go a lot faster than this, but I kind of get the sense that this is what our opponent's going for. They're hoping to run into an Aurora, and they're hoping to play this, like, longer, grindier, mid-rangey style game. Almost like Turtle Katsu, except they're playing Zen, which is interesting. So the turn that I have worked out here in my head, since we're waiting, I'll go ahead and talk about it. I'm going to play Lightning Surge. I'm going to Somersault the Lightning Surge back. Then I'm going to pitch the Lightning Surge to the Starfall, and then I'm going to throw the Ravenous Rabble. This is very good because it gets 4 pieces of Arcane. We're going to get 1 from the Arc Lightning, 1 from here for 2. When we play this to get this back, we're going to pitch the Lightning Surge to throw Starfall, which is going to be our 3rd. It's going to be our 3rd Arc Lightning. And then the Ravenous Rabble is our 4th Arc Lightning. This is interesting. He's using the Sacred Art. I was like, I don't understand why you would make this play here. Preserve Tradition, and then you're going to pitch the Grain that tips the scale. So that my opponent has the blues. My opponent has the blues all day long to play this out, but it looks like they're not going to have the cards to block our physical damage, which means we are going to get the CLV here, which is exactly what we want. We're going to target them. They'll pay 1. At least I'm assuming they'll pay 1. Lightning Surge setup here. A little bit of patience with the Lightning Surge is really lined up for us to be able to use this efficiently. I feel like that's one of the big keys about playing like a Rune Blade is that you need to be focusing on making sure you have an arsenal and like trying to set up as many 5-card hands as possible. Not only because of the dud factor, but also because you want to make sure that you are just giving yourself the best hands going from turn to turn here. So our opponent says no blocks. I feel like there's a defense reaction incoming here. No, they actually just take 4 and give us a card here. Another Channel Lightning Valley is actually really solid. I kind of figured with the Chi there that my opponent would block with the Kasaya at minimum and then activate it in the resolution step. They would still be taking damage, but I think that's better than, I think that's better than what they did. I don't know, because they have 2 Tigers and a Chi in hand. So their hand is, well, actually, yeah, so they have 2 Tigers, a Chi, and an unknown card now. And we're going to throw the Ravenous Rabble here. Hey, let's go. We are babbling for a change, boys. You love to see it. You love to see it. So they're going to fall down to 2. And then I'm going to Arsenal the CLV. We're already keeping the first one here. And I think Arsenaling the next one gives us a very good start going in the next turn. Drawing multiple of them is a little awkward, admittedly. It's a little weird. Now we really have to decide what we want to Arsenal for next turn. So now they have 3 Tigers and an unknown card and a Tiger Swipe. I'm assuming... I have no idea what they're doing over there. Yeah, I'm very lost. I don't know. Maybe something crazy is going to happen here. There's a Tiger in their arsenal too. Okay. This does not have go again. I think we're just going to say no blocks here. I really don't know what they're doing, but this doesn't have go again. If someone in the comments understands their turn right there, please let me know. I don't really know what happened. They could have played that more efficiently. I feel like that they might have been better off to have just pitched all of the blues last turn. But I don't know. Either way, the defensive build of Zen was interesting, but we were able to close it out in the end. Looking back on the game, I can see that my opponent made a few mistakes that gave me some good footing early on in the game, really allowed me to establish tempo, continuing to set up arsenals and drive home our good hands and just putting pressure after pressure after pressure on them. I don't think there was anything that could have prepared me for my opponent to be playing like Turtle Zen. They were on Flick Flax, Wax-Ons, Sink Belows. It was a very interesting build of the deck, especially after knowing that there's already such a good version of Zen that's out there and exists that does well into Aurora already. I came into this matchup expecting to just race and just play like as much offense as I could. I even brought in Sink Belows for the matchup to try and help hedge my bets, but it just lined up that our opponent was playing this like really wonky turtley style deck, and we were able to get enough tempo early on to really drive home our lead and just keep the pressure on throughout the course of the game. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this Zen list. It's really interesting to me, and I'd like to get some other feedback on it because maybe there's something to work with here. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.